Canyon Europe Limited is the European arm of its Japanese parent company. Based in County Antrim, Northern Ireland, the company employs 125 staff and manufactures injection moulded products. In 2003, their sales, production and stock control were managed through a series of separate spreadsheets. Information was not visible between departments and errors were commonplace.
There was a new MD put into the company in 2000, and up until that stage the company had no ISO accreditation or anything else, so his theory was he had worked in an automotive background and he wanted to bring in systems into the company. So we came in and we started to put systems and procedures into place. At that time we were making two different product families. We were making a trigger sprayer and a pump dispenser, and that meant there was quite a volume of different units or components to make that together. Through the ISO approval and again through our customer development, we had a lot of customers coming to us and were coming for factory visits to understand their products and their processes. And every time they come into the factory, they're coming to us, well, what system are you using? And we were going back to them and saying, well, it's all Excel based, or it's spreadsheets and bits of paper. And at that time, we were actually doing our planning through a magnetic board. Yeah. And that didn't lend itself to where we were aspiring to go to. So I think probably around 50 to 70,000 basic costs, and then all of these systems had maintenance costs of 15 to 20%. And that certainly wasn't a realm of costs that we were envisaging we could afford to put in, because again, we're a company that was going through quite a significant change, and our investment capital was quite limited. And again, we were trying to focus that on our products, not on the background system to control it. So it was a big gap, and it was a big barrier to entry for us with those costs being presented to us.
When I first joined the company in 2003, I think it was, one of the first things I noticed was that there was stock everywhere. There was no room to move, there wasn't that much stock, too much of one thing, not enough of another. You know, you had guys coming in at the weekends just to count stock to see what they had, and we were doing their planning on a daily basis after they counted what stock was on the floor. And then the other thing was we used to issue handwritten works orders out to the shop floor. The supervisor would have it sitting right in each works order what he made at the end of the shift. You know, there was calculation errors, so you were maybe coming off an order, you know, too soon, or you were making stock over the order, so you ended up with stock in the warehouse for months at a time.
On it, and again, the product that we make has 11 or 12 components. The colour variants that we offer, and we talked about it, there are 25 greens as an example. So for each of those key colour components, potentially there are 25 different stockable units against that. So if you can imagine a warehouse, and again, there used to be an A4 folder with the top of a page that was written out that had that component number, and then manually written in how much was booked in, and then again how much was booked out, and again that was all calculated using a calculator. It's hard to put a value in money terms. Certainly materials would have been into probably hundreds if not thousands of pounds on a monthly basis, but the time was probably the bigger issue. It was the ability to be able to react, and you know, had an assembly machine lying off, which then would have put you in a position where you'd have had, you know, a pressure to get the order out, because you plan your production efficiently based on the output per day. And because the machine was lying off for 3-4 hours waiting on this colour coming through, that then invariably pushed your dispatch dates and put us under pressure to get deliveries in.
The company was involved with a number of improvement programs, and one consultant put Graham in touch with 123insight, who provided a multimedia DVD. After watching some of the product demonstration videos and holding a short meeting with 123insight's representation in Northern Ireland, QM Systems, Canyon Europe booked to attend the no-obligation training. 2 staff attended training courses in October 2003. A new server was installed in February 2004, with Graham then starting the installation process himself, and within 2 months the system was live across all departments.
Very good, it was quite easy to follow. There was lots of little exercises to do so you could make sure you understood, you know, how the system worked, and you could ask questions about how it related to your company as well. One of the biggest worries I had was with the guys on the shop floor. You know, go with the system, would they like it? Would it be user friendly for them? But it was.
Immediately, the fog surrounding information held across different departments disappeared. Communication improved dramatically, as there was now a single repository of information accessible by all departments. Errors associated with the traditional workflow process disappeared overnight.
This spreadsheet was the Bible, as they called it in the factory, and everybody had a copy. And the problem with that was, the first thing you did was, obviously orders were coming in 4 and 5, 6 times a day, and you got a printout in the morning, but by lunchtime it wasn't current anymore. Whereas now we can go in and use our report manager, and we can see exactly what's on for this week's dispatch, what orders have been accepted into the system, and it's all live.
Stock control used to cause major problems, with physical stock checks commonplace as records could not be relied on. Rolling stock takes of a few items are now done instead, which confirms that what the system is reporting is what is actually on the shelves. As a direct result, stock holding of work-in-progress components has been reduced by 30%, which in real terms is about £28,000 per month.
The big thing for us was, whenever we were making stock, all of it was manual entry whenever the moulding components were being made, and then they were booked into stock and they were manually booked out of stock using spreadsheets and, well, it wasn't even spreadsheets, bits of paper. The inaccuracies were colossal. By having accuracy in the orders being booked in against the works order, we were able to get a real live situation, and that allowed us to reduce down the stock holding that we had. We then, overnight, basically did away with overruns from orders, and we were able to reduce our safety stock as well. So all of that culminated to the 30% reduction that you've seen whenever we went live.
We have a stock location on MRP overruns. I think at one time I looked at it was like 300,000 finished sprayers in overruns. Now we're down to like 3 boxes or something.
Yeah. Speaks for itself.
Since implementation in 2004, Canyon Europe has operated a first-in, first-out policy with stock. Previously, stock was not allocated to any location, but now each batch can be allocated to a specific location and shelf. With 123insight's batch traceability, staff can quickly locate the oldest items for use. A number of further significant savings became apparent. The amount of paperwork generated and tracked was massively reduced. The necessity for printing reports and forms, many previously in triplicate, was also removed as users could access the information electronically. Also, previously printed documents such as orders and sales acknowledgements could now be sent by fax or email directly from the PC. Traceability, which was always a concern before, was now built into the system.
For us, it was critical in terms of the traceability, and our customers were telling us, this is where the customers were telling us at the time, if you have a problem, you need to be able to trace it back through the batches, where there are other batches that were produced, whether it be for us or for other customers, we need to have that. And up to that point, we hadn't an idea, because we were booking out from a sheet of paper out to a sheet of paper, whereas this way we can go back as far as the system holds records, and we can say, on this date we produced this component or this finished sprayer using these components. These components came from batch material number, and here is the certificate of conformance from the supplier. So you've got all of that history, and it's not very often we need it, but it's when you need it that it becomes invaluable for the customer, and it gives them a confidence that you're in control of your system.
As part of its continual improvement process, Canyon Europe reviewed its business strategy in early 2010. Their shop floor already utilised a data acquisition system which captured the counterparts manufactured, waste streams and any machine downtime. However, this was a standalone system and data was being manually fed between it and 123insight, so the company decided to create a link between the two systems.
Around March time, we were approached by an external company. The MD had been inquiring about an opportunity to link our data acquisition system to our MRP system. They came in and they had looked around the factory, and they'd given a cost to us to complete that exercise. It's quite significant, in excess of £30,000. Internally, we were very nervous of that, because we were aware of the importance of the link and the ongoing revisions of the software. So we talked directly to Drew, and Drew brought Craig over, and we had a meeting on site here to discuss the opportunities. It became clear that you actually could assist us during that meeting, and it was then agreed we would have a further session at Southampton with the programmers so we could look at the options available to us. At that time it was agreed a time plan then to write an SDK that could meet the requirements to link the two systems together, and that time plan was for November that year. You actually delivered the project to us a month early, so it was brought into effect in October, and the bigger benefit is that it's continually revised with every revision to ensure that it consistently continually works, so that our system will continue to be linked no matter what revision of the 123 software we're running.
The benefits of the integration were immediate. Paperwork was further reduced and a common interface was employed across the shop floor. Operators use a combination of barcode scanners and touchscreens to identify themselves and to start work on a works order, the information for which is drawn from 123insight. Specifications and images for the job can be viewed on screen before the operator starts. The data acquisition system passes relevant information back to 123insight once the operator scans the job as complete, and a label is then produced for the packaging which details everything about the job. Live shop floor information is also relayed over large overhead LCD screens. Planning delivered major savings in both reducing waste and saving machine time. As machines were no longer often producing short runs, waste dropped considerably from around 4 to 5% to 0.1%.
The machines can only run while the components are available, and that's where the MRP system is instrumental to us, because it's making sure that the machine components, the components needed to make the final spread, are available line side, on time, in full. Our efficiencies were low, but it was not necessarily due to the inefficiency of the machine. It was waiting on components which weren't available at the right time in the right place.
The company's ability to quote accurate lead times has continued to improve.
But the biggest impact has been around our ability to do the lead times. Because we are confident in our stock and our system, we always would have had a safety factor built in, being production people. Because we now have stock accuracy, we know exactly what we have. Our planning is much more fluid, and our planning schedule, we have it all listed down, what components are in stock, everything's there and straightforward for everybody to see. So anybody can go in and view the schedule, see what components are there, see what components still need to be made, and then revert back to the plan of when they're going to be made and at what time. Beforehand, the only person who knew what was being made was the planner.
Support and ongoing development have been excellent, with Joanne noting that calls are always dealt with quickly and there is a willingness to drive the product forward through customer suggestions.
At the start, whenever we were setting up 123, you'd call them up and they were able to help you there and then over the phone, or if you couldn't help there and then, there was always response within 24 hours. At first I was a bit nervous about 123, and I thought, this is our system, you need to adapt your company around our system. They're working more with the company, and if a company comes up with an idea that they would like in 123, then they put it on their work schedule or whatever, and see if they can put it onto the next build, which I think is excellent and a good turnaround for 123.
Although Canyon Europe has taken considerable market share between 2004 and 2011, the number of indirect staff has largely remained the same.
That has been done really without any increase in numbers, really significantly, other than direct employees producing stuff. But the back office staff, the indirects that support that, the numbers are probably nearly identical to what they would have been in that time period.
I know certainly my workload has reduced greatly.
Well, as we said, we used to have two people planning separately and spending their day planning, whereas we now, Joanne looks after the planning, looks after the purchasing, as well as doing other activities within the company as well. I think if you reflect back to the very start of the project, we were talking about a spend of £60,000 plus an ongoing spend of in excess of £10,000 a year to keep the system running. We were very wary of putting a system in that didn't give any value over and above what we were doing at that time. And if you imagine we were going to have to input £70,000, never mind having to train our people, which would have been a significant cost, whereas from the 123 point of view, the costs for training were about £2,000, whereas we would have had the £70,000 potential upfront cost and then the training of the people thereafter that for a system that mightn't have even given any value or done what it was meant to do. It was a no-risk approach, and I still stand over that. We came in, we looked at the system, there was no upfront costs other than completing the training costs, which were negligible costs. We put the system in. If after the first month it didn't work for us, we would have been able to withdraw with no penalties, clauses, or any issues around overall cost of investment. If we'd have done that at a £50,000 or £60,000 investment, that would have been a massive amount of money to this company. If we had not made that step, we probably would have taken another 2 years before we'd have jumped into MRP because of the costs associated. But the 123insight system just made all that disappear, and the decision was an instant decision and a very good decision to go with. Whereas the risk of getting it wrong when you invested £70,000 per year would have been colossal.